It is officially July. My gosh, we got through June. Camp will be here before we know it. 23 days to be exact, but who the hell's counting? Landry Locker, Cody Suits with you. It is S&L. Shout out to Bobtac, one of the new sponsors of the show, for hopping on board here as we approach training camp. And today, Cody, we will be talking about redemption, revenge, bounce back like juvenile, however you want to put it. Texans that are most looking to improve what went down in 2024. And I think the first one's very, very easy to address.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Texans, and they didn't make any sort of just like massive additions like they had the past couple of seasons, this offseason. Like, yeah, they had the draft picks, and we're excited about Higgins and Noel and maybe Ursery and things like that. But a lot of the Texans in 2025 is going to be who didn't play as well as they could have in 2024, how much better they're going to be in 2025, and it starts at QB.
Yeah, it starts at QB. CJ Stroud. He is the captain of the 2025 redemption team. CJ Stroud wasn't god-awful, but didn't live up to the standard that he'd set in the previous year. We've had the discussion about the why. I think some of it he could have controlled. Some of it was perhaps out of his control. But CJ Stroud, make no mistake about it, he's going to have to be better if the Texans are going to get where they want to get this year than he was last. And the new system, I think, was the start. I think D'Amico Ryans did a good job of making the decision that he did to move on from his buddy Bobby. But CJ's also going to have to do a better job of controlling what he can control, which is a direct quote from him at the end of last season. And we'll see how that goes. I do think the defense is going to lower or increase the margin for error for him. But it's definitely starts with CJ Stroud when it comes to the all redemption team.
And it just didn't meet the expectations and the stuff that he could control. And then the quote that stuck with me from CJ about the season was, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he thought it was going to be a lot easier than it actually turned out to be. And he maybe underestimated what the second year in the NFL was going to be. And just hearing him talk about how he can approach some of the things that he knows defenses are going to do now against him and the way teams are going to play him, it does get me excited for the potential for this to be a big redemption season for him. And if he's way better than he was last year, the Texans are going to be in a great spot. They're going to play less close games. They're going to have bigger leads on teams when they do have leads. There's a lot of positivity for 2025 as CJ Stroud is way better than he was in 2024.
Yeah, and I would say the confidence level in CJ Stroud, it's high. I think he's going to be better this year than he was last. What does that mean? Like, does that mean that CJ Stroud is having, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow year like we saw last year? I don't necessarily think he has to do that. I think he can be closer to like the Jared Goff, Brock Purdy type, where the system works in his way and there's things around him that make it a lot easier. But my confidence level in CJ Stroud and redemption in 2025, I think it's pretty high.
I'll tell you what it means. It means that he's accurate, he's decisive, and he's a playmaker on a consistent basis, because he did those things in 2023. And then for a variety of reasons, some in control for him and some out of control for him, he wasn't that consistently in 2024. How many times do we watch a drive? I think back to Kansas City on the road in the regular season where we said, hey, that's 2023 CJ right there. And then you just didn't see that on a consistent basis. I mean, that's what 2025 redemption looks like, is consistency closer to what he did in 2023.
And your confidence level is high in that, I would assume. You feel pretty good about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel pretty confident in that. Next one, other side of the rock, Azeez Shire. Azeez Shire, last time we saw him, he was kind of picking up his jock, courtesy of Travis Kelce, who didn't look that good last year, and really before or after that. But when he had Azeez on him, he did not look good. Azeez Shire also missed a couple of games, well documented for the reason why. Still a good season, but Azeez Shire looking for redemption this year, and probably not going to be in coverage as much, depending on what happens with the injuries.
The way that Azeez Shire talked about what he could bring to the Texans in 2024, he just didn't do that consistently. And there was some injury stuff. There was obviously the suspension. And when he came back, he ended up on Travis Kelce. That's not his, not supposed to be his job, but it was his job, and he didn't get it done there. I don't believe by any standard that last year went the way Azeez Shire or DeMeco Ryans envisioned it going for him. And so I do believe there's a lot left that Azeez didn't show last year that he can show this year, perhaps because everything else on the defense is going to be a little bit better. Maybe some health at the linebacker room would go a long way in allowing him to showcase some of those things. And like we've talked about with the offense, put players in positions to succeed. Don't let Azeez Shire end up in coverage anymore. Well, if you got healthy linebackers that can cover, he won't have to cover. So yeah, it was not the line of scrimmage demon that he was for the Tennessee Titans in 2023 last year for the Houston Texans. Not nearly as close.
So what's the confidence level in Azeez? Because mine isn't very high. I think we could start to see kind of a decline from Al Shire this year. It happens on every team. I could easily see teams trying to take advantage of him in those types of situations. So my confidence level, it was high on CJ Stroud. It's not necessarily that high when it comes to Al Shire. That's just me.
Mine's high. I feel like he left a lot out there, and part of it was his fault. Part of it was the linebackers, the defense around him, and with a healthy linebacker room, they should be able to use Azeez the way that he needs to be used and have a better season than 2024.
All right, offensive line. This is the most polarizing position group.
Go ahead and go to the confidence part.
All right, well, we'll just start with Titus Howard. Titus Howard, he's going to be a guard, it looks like. The tackle experiment started off decently. Then he got the extension, and ever since he's gotten the extension, he's either been hurt or hasn't played very well, which is why now we're looking at Titus Howard as likely a right guard. His job to lose at right guard when it comes to starting. He says that he's focused. He says he's focused on the diet. I think many people, including myself, would say, well, where the hell was that last year? Why were you not in top shape? Why are you not focusing on that? You copied Laremy Tunsil in every area except the one that Laremy Tunsil's really good at, which is staying in shape and keeping his body right. But Titus insists he's recharged. He says they're going to, quote, hit guys in the mouth, and he appears to be confident. I'll just jump right to it. Are you confident in a Titus Howard 2025 redemption season?
No. And I'm done with hearing about Titus Howard talk about anything. Titus Howard's going to have to show me. I'm not believing anything that he says into a microphone, into a camera, into Aaron Wilson holding up his phone talking to him. I'm not believing anything. And he's got to go out there and show it. He's got to go out there in training camp and fend off 4 or 5 different guys for his spot. And then once he actually earns his spot and gets his spot on the offensive line, he's got to go out there and showcase that he's a player you can depend on to create even an average level of play at right guard. There's no believing anything on this offensive line until they show it. And Titus is the chief. He's the chief amongst that.
Yeah, I'm not buying anything that Titus is selling. If it happens, great. I do think that I think his mind's right. I think that he doesn't have a choice right now because his back's kind of against the wall. I think it's probably humbling to be moved from right tackle to right guard, especially given the fact that the tackles that we're talking about don't necessarily, it's not like they're established. There's a lot of question marks there. But I'm not going to buy anything that Titus Howard is selling. He's going to have to show me. So my confidence level relatively low. And I will, if he pleasantly surprises me, congratulations. I'm just not buying that stock. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's do or die for him. And so I'm glad he's saying that he's finally got it right when it's, you're basically your job's on the line. Cause I can guarantee you this, he's not playing next year for a $27.9 million cap hit. So either plays well enough and they get an adjustment on that, or he's playing for somebody else.
Yeah. But yeah, he's saying all the right things, but again, we're not judging that. On the super chat here on S&L, we're going through the redemptions.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. Austin Jack. Shout out to Austin Jack.
Good to see you, my friend.
Hola, mi amigo. Kyle Nance says sup. What's up? That's very AOL instant messenger-y. Sup. That's how you break the ice there. Next.
You an away message guy?
Of course.
Yeah,
It always sucks though, because you had to leave it up and your parents might see you talking about like some chicks or something like that, or kind of look at the messages and see some of the dirty stuff you were talking about before you tried to sneak out. So that was a little bit ballsy, because you couldn't just hide the away message. It was right there on mama's desktop, and got me in trouble probably more times than I would have liked. Next redemption, Christian Harris. I'm buying this stock. Look, nothing Christian Harris did on the field, like all these other guys that we're talking about, we're basing it on the fact that they didn't perform up to their standard or up to what their compensation was. And that's why we're bringing these guys up. The only problem with Christian Harris was that he was not on the field. Christian Harris was the guy that was mentioned near the top of reasons for optimism last season. I know he came back. I think D'Amico actually did him a strong disservice by not just saying how hurt he was. I actually think that the fan base kind of didn't understand what was going on. I think D'Amico had a Chappelle Show, keeping it real, gone wrong moment there. But look, the expectations are so low for Christian Harris right now. I think they're almost too low. D'Amico is actually now saying he's going to be ready to go in training camp. And this is amidst all the CJ Stroud shoulder stuff. So he appears confident in Christian Harris. Christian Harris is in a contract year, looking to prove something. Christian Harris was one of the best performers on that defense 2 years ago at the end of the season when D'Amico was there. I am very, 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 very confident. And again, it's all comes down to health with Christian Harris, which there's reason for skepticism, but I am very confident that he's going to be more of a contributor next year than he was in 2024, which might not be saying much. And if he is on the field, let's say 10, 11, whatever games, I think the impact is going to be clear. So my confidence level in Christian Harris is very high. I've bought the hell out of that stock.
Yeah, I'm tempering my expectations, and my confidence level is, low to medium. It's just, I don't trust him. I don't trust the body. I don't trust the health. And I feel like there's a chance that they may just play other linebackers instead of him, even if he is healthy. He's just too far gone. Can't catch back up. And I have no idea what the lingering effects of that injury are, because obviously he wasn't right when he came back. Did that carry over to the offseason? He didn't practice in OTAs and minicamp because, again, he was hurt. So I just have low expectations, and my confidence is real low because I can't trust him and I can't trust the health.
Yeah. And I agree with you on that. I mean, you're betting on his health is kind of a dangerous thing. Friend of the show, a guy who, I mean, his before last year, and this has to do with the standard that he set. And I actually asked him about it when he was right here on this stream. Frank Ross, the special teams wasn't great. That's the standard he set. And he agreed with me when I said that. 2025 redemption, the third phase, Frank Ross, they've invested in it. I mean, my God, they've invested in special teams. He's gotten him a couple special teams aces. I know Tremont Smith's probably the face of the special teams now, which is a good face to have. And they've added some other pieces. Are we buying the redemption of Frank Ross's special teams? And when I ask this, I exclude Ka'imi Fairbairn because I don't look at I don't look at Frank Ross like coaching Ka'imi Fairbairn. I'm talking about the kick coverage, the return, some of the boneheaded plays that we saw on punt return last year.
No Chris Boyd, so already off to a great start.
Yeah, no Steven Sims either. So 2025 Frank Ross redemption. Do you have a high confidence in Frank Ross returning that third phase to an elite level?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. And I actually even feel like there's a chance that the return game, and probably specifically the punt return game, could even be a weapon a couple of different times, especially if they give Jalen Noel the opportunity to do some of the punt return stuff. Because I feel like now it is very few and far between that you actually see some usefulness out of the punt return. But punt return, the coverage is going to be better with some of the special teams aces that they've added. It remains to be seen exactly which one of those guys is going to make the team. But if he's able to get Nick Neiman and Tremont Smith and EJ Speed onto that roster, he's going to be squared away, set from a special team standpoint. High confidence that Frank Ross is bouncing back and might even get just a tiny bit more out of old Tommy Townsend too.
Yeah, and I think the reality of the of the Frank Ross thing is it was a high standard that he set. So, it wasn't great, but it wasn't the standard that he has set.
And by the way, brand new long snapper, the one that got's a rookie. He's never done it in the NFL before. So that's something that Frank's going to have to make sure is squared away too.
Yep. Bye-bye, John Weeks. We want to shout out a new sponsor of the show, Bobtac. And I love what Bobtac does because it's necessary and it also features something that I think is lost in today's world. It's safety equipment wherever you're at, whether you're a truck driver, whether it's a restaurant, whatever, any type of equipment that you need, they got you covered, and you're going to pay less and you're going to get more. When you call this phone line, you're going to directly talk to Bob or Reed, the two guys in charge. They're going to deliver free delivery for you. And they're going to avoid all of this poor customer service that exists these days.
You're hearing Reed talk about it. They care about you. They want to create a customer. You're not a line on an item like one of those big giant corporations that has no idea who you are. Reed's dropping the stuff off himself. Free delivery, 24/7 access to these guys, safety equipment, gloves, overalls, hard hats, safety glasses, anything and everything. If you need it, they get it to you, and they have the best prices.
We got the popsicles too. They got the big ass popsicles that you can get. Just anything, even if you need some latex gloves around the house, respirators, anything you want, they got it. And all you got to do is give them a call, 409-744-8225, or you can go to bobtac.com. They got you covered. Again, a lot of big BS companies, they're cutting corners and they're raising costs. That's not the case here. They got a relationship with their people. They've been in the business for a while, and they got you covered. Shout out to our truck drivers, restaurant people, etc. Whatever you do, anything, they got you covered when it comes to safety, and you'll be able to talk to them anytime, whenever you call, 24/7. So shout out to Bobtac. Continuing the redemption game here with Landry Locker and Cody Stutes. I know you don't want this, so I'll just skip over this. Juice Scruggs, 2025 redemption. Juice Scruggs.
Juice Scruggs here. We're at the bottom already? Is the show about to be over?
No.
It's the last one?
Juice Scruggs. Buying or selling, confidence level in a Juice Scruggs redemption.
It's like when WWE Raw is already off the air. They're like, stay in your seats. We're going to record main event. It's like, I'm not watching this. Juice has been a total disappointment as a draft pick for the Texans. He didn't even play center his rookie year because he got hurt before the season started. He was fine a couple of times and mostly just below average as a guard. He comes back in. He's the starting center for the team. And then the offensive line stinks. They have to put Patterson in because Scruggs can't pass block. He's okay to bad at guard. He gets hurt again. Then when he comes back, he's like starting. He's at the right guard. Looks like he's got something going. And then when he's healthy, they bench him for Shaq Mason, who's been off for a month. It's like there's total disappointment for a second-round pick. He was a huge overdraft in most people's eyes when the Texans traded up to get him. And it hasn't paid off for them. And they've been searching and trying to find a replacement because Scruggs hasn't solidified that center spot since then. And maybe this new system, this new change to the offensive line approach is going to be good for him, but he's not shown anything in his NFL career up to this point.
No, and they've shown that they don't really even believe in him in OTAs or minicamp. Like he's holding the bag. He's not even in the rotation. So I'm kind of with you. I think there's a lot of times you kind of learn from your past mistakes as a coach, especially early on. And they probably overextended the Kenyon Green experiment last year, probably a little bit more than when it was kind of abundantly clear that it just wasn't working. I don't see them doing that with Juice Scruggs. And quite frankly, I don't know how good the depth is, but there are more options. So I have little confidence that Juice Scruggs is even on the team. unless maybe they release him and nobody else picks him up, which might be a possibility if they put on the tape and watch him actually play. So maybe he hangs around in like some sort of capacity, but I don't like, as far as when we're going through cuts at this point, I would be more surprised if Juice Scruggs was on the team than I would if you told me that he was cut or traded for like a late round draft pick.
Be interested to see even where he and when he gets his opportunities in training camp, because if I had to build I'm guessing based off what I've seen depth chart, he's not on the 2 deep. There's 2 guys in front of him at center. There's 2 guys in front of him.
No, he's definitely not. He's definitely not on the 2 deep. Like there's no, and it's not just guy. Like there's some WikiLeaks ahead of him on the 2 deep where you have to look at your roster and you have to say, oh, who is that in there at guard? Like he's
Jalen Thomas.
Yeah. And I
haven't even played guard in the NFL. He's a tackle.
Maybe there's some sort of like the only like blessing in disguise for Juice Scruggs outside of him just going out there and completely mashing is maybe they're trying to send some message to him, but I don't even think they're thinking that much into it when it comes to what they're doing. I just think that based on what we've seen, he can't play, and based on what they've shown, they don't think he can play. And it's an uphill battle right now for Juice Scruggs when it comes to making the team.
If they walk in and basically have no expectations and he just outperforms that, maybe he's there. But if they're trying to apply previous standards to him where it's, hey, he's a former 2nd round pick, we need to see more, I don't know it's going to work for Juice Scruggs. I don't see how he makes the team.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, the final one for me, and y'all can let me know if I missed any players or anything. D'Amico Ryans. And let me explain this. It has nothing to do with his defense. It has nothing to do with the overall bottom line of how he's performed. But I think he does need to show that he can trust the right guy to call offense. Like when you're a defensive minded coach and you're having to fire your offensive coordinator 2 years in, and your quarterback is the captain of the redemption team, regardless of the confidence, you got to show that you made the right decision. Everybody makes mistakes. Look, you have to pivot on 2nd round picks. You have to pivot on 1st round picks. Sometimes you have to pivot on coaches. It's a fluid process. There's no perfection and you have to overcome it. But the hiring of Nick Caley and the functioning of the offensive line and the decisions, and maybe this is connected to punting on Juice Scruggs instead of keeping him around like you did Kenyon Green last year. We're going to have to see D'Amico Ryans at least show that he has the right guy in place, and the decisions that he's being able to make are maximized specifically on the other side of the rock away from his specialty.
The tough part about what you laid out is he's already done everything he can do. It's up to Nick Caley to make it pay off and hope that D'Amico Ryans had the right eye in the offseason and just make sure he takes care of his side and the defense to give the offense the best chance. So that's kind of out of his control now as the way you kind of laid it out. So we'll see.
I would say the confidence is,
I mean, for me, Caley was the guy that I wanted them to go get. So for me, it's really high.
Yeah, it's definitely the right guy to go and get. I would agree with that. So we'll see what it goes. Juice Blacklock, by the way, looks like it is kind of hitting.
That is a very funny oh my God. I had never seen this.
That's me. Yeah.
That's some good stuff right there. That's some good stuff. And you're not always up on the memes either. So I'm glad you got the Spider-Man pointing meme. That's good.
Yeah, the Spider-Man. I caught it 3 years, I think, into the game or something like that. So there we go. Did I miss anyone on the redeem team, the 2025 Texans redeem team?
Dameon Pierce.
I guess we could put Dameon Pierce on there.
Dameon Pierce, a couple of seasons of just nothing after the rookie year.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce. Don't know about him.
And then Dalton Schultz.
Buying.
It could go a long way in just looking better for Dalton Schultz. Like the stats may not be like amazingly better, but if it just looked a little bit better, he wasn't getting run through by every defensive end he tried to put his hands on. If it just looked a little bit better, it'd go a long way for Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, the use would be a little bit better for Dalton Schultz. He's fighting for a new deal. They're not bringing him back for $11 million next year.
And maybe like it just looks like there's a little bit more hustle than there looked in 2024.
Yeah.
And it just looks better running the routes and trying to, make a play and make a catch and,
Yeah. So Dameon Pierce is another one that perhaps could be on there. I'm just out of the Dameon Pierce business at this point.
I certainly understand why you would be. I certainly get that. Is there, I guess I might be bending the rules or cheating a little bit here, and it might just be it might just totally be just health. Like Christian Kirk, you just got to stay healthy, I guess.
Yeah, and
that's just too.
I guess from his perspective, it just wasn't in our.
That's just too
radar.
It's too narrow. There's got to be some play associated with, in addition to the health, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. On the super chat here on S&L, James R.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm
Says, I can't take another season of the offense playing grab ass and the defense bailing them out constantly. For then D'Amico to go to the podium and say, we got to execute and play complimentary football.
One of the worst ones.
And defense didn't do enough, as Patrick brings up, where the offense goes out there and doesn't do anything, and he says the defense didn't do enough. That drove me nuts.
Detroit. Yeah, well, the defense didn't hold on there in the second half. What?
Yeah.
The offense.
Stroud threw that interception that was just extremely costly. And then the offense just completely faltered.
Just the offense pisses down their leg for an entire half of football after you looked good in the first half. And
great.
And it's like, well, the defense didn't do enough. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was tough.
It was one of the best offenses in football, and they kicked their head in for half a game. And then their OC, who, wasn't an idiot, went into halftime and made some adjustments. And then your OC acted like there's no special sauce at halftime. It's like,
yeah, that was a weird performance by D'Amico. That was just kind of, he looked very, very, very
I believe
minded.
I believe Detroit is when people in the building lost it on Bobby. Like they just lost the hope.
No. I think Green Bay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think Green Bay, that was really weird. Yeah, you run the ball twice and then you throw it and it's short of the sticks. How is that even an option at that point? And it's out of bounds no matter what. I think that was where it was like, okay, this is bad.
And you still had a little bit of you still had Diggs and Dell in Green Bay. By the time you got to Detroit, you were down some guys, but there was less excuses in Green Bay. God, the offensive line was so bad in Green Bay too.
Yeah,
and then they said they were better the next week, even though they allowed more pressure. Oh God.
Yeah, and D'Amico said there was a narrative about the poor offensive line play, but there was some good stuff going on with Kenyon Green. We'll see how this works. Hashtag D'Amico on the Redeem team.
That was they lost to Green Bay. They squeaked past Indianapolis in a game where they really shouldn't have beat the Colts, but they did. And then New York and Detroit back-to-back were just awful. Yeah, because New York, the Jets had no business beating you, and then they did. And then the Detroit game, to just throw up on yourself on Sunday Night Football like that was right.
I love how people follow along with the press conferences with us. And I think that's kind of like one of my obsessions is podium critic stuff. But Kyle brings up on the chat, Bobby, there's no such thing as halftime adjustment Slowick. That was freaking terrible when he said that. That was awful. When he said there's no such thing as halftime adjustments as an OC. That was awful.
Yeah, and every team they played for like a month had made halftime adjustments.
That sucked. That was bad.
Remember they couldn't score in the second half. It's like they got that token Joe Mixon touchdown against Dallas.
Points. They had 3 points in like 5 weeks in the second half or whatever. Or they didn't have a touchdown for however long. And he said there's no such thing as halftime adjustments. I was like, oh wow. Yeah, you're probably done.
Disgusting.
I talked to some people that kind of cringed when he said that.
There was a stretch where Derek Barnett had scored more second half touchdowns than the offense.
Yeah, we really harped on that, man. There is no such thing as halftime adjustments. That was terrible. Appreciate everyone for rolling through.
That has to be an early, and I don't know. We got to get something from Nick Caley on what they do at halftime. Like I got to know that he thinks halftime matters after Bobby acted like it didn't.
Dude, that was so bad. That was so bad. So terrible. Shout out to Bobtac once again for sponsoring this. They're gonna ride with us all the way up to West Virginia. We will be at the Greenbrier. Visit them, 24/7 availability. Truck drivers, business owners, whatever you want, whatever you need, they got you covered. Go to bobtac.com and shout out to Reed and Bob for sponsoring us and for being local and giving you what you are lacking from the big name. That is absentee. You're usually talking to a machine and they don't have a damn idea what's going on.
Yep. Shop local, spend less, get more. Bobtac.com.
There you go. Not to be confused with Bobby Slowick. It's a good Bob, not Bobby Slowick.
We like this Bob.
Yeah, we like this Bob. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.